My son said he wasn't expecting me for Christmas, so I canceled the mortgage payment. Hello everyone, welcome back to Justice in Silence. I'm your narrator, sharing a story that's raw, emotional, and full of silent consequences. I've spent years paying my son's mortgage, even after my divorce. It was my way to show love, support, and security. Every December, I looked forward to spending Christmas with him in his home. This year, I called him on December 10th. "I'm coming for Christmas," I said. He paused, then replied quietly, "I wasn't expecting you." No excitement in his voice, no warmth. That chilling response felt like betrayal. All the money I gave, every sacrifice, gone unnoticed. I realized, if I wasn't wanted, maybe I didn't need to keep giving. A few days later, after more soul-searching, I did something big. I called the bank and canceled the mortgage payment I'd been making in my name. It was mine to stop, so I did. He called me, panicked, asking about bank notices and late fees. I told him calmly, "You said you didn't expect me, so expecting me to pay isn't fair either." For the first time, he was silent. There were no words to defend himself or to ask me to resume. Because sometimes, silence is the strongest message. I spent Christmas at my small apartment, decorated my own tree, played old songs, and enjoyed quiet strength. No family drama, no false expectations. You can give until you break. But love isn't measured in money. It's in respect, gratitude, and mutual care. When those vanish, it's time to walk away, quietly. Thank you for listening. If you found this story meaningful, like, comment, and subscribe for more Justice in Silence tales. Until next time, remember, sometimes the loudest justice is delivered in silence. For years, I paid my son's mortgage without ever questioning it. Not because I had to, but because I wanted him to feel secure. After my divorce, I told myself I'd give him a stable foundation no matter what it cost me. I didn't have a big house or fancy vacations. Every extra dollar went into that monthly payment, into his future, into keeping him comfortable. He had a family of his own now, a wife, 2 kids, and I didn't want them to ever worry about the roof over their heads. At first, he seemed grateful. He said thank you. He called to check in, even visited during holidays. But slowly, the calls became fewer. The visits stopped. The gratitude turned into expectation, like it was just a duty I was supposed to fulfill. And still, I kept paying. Quietly, month after month. Because I loved him. I skipped birthdays for myself, said no to things I wanted, just so I could make sure that bank didn't knock on his door. It didn't matter that the mortgage was in my name. It didn't matter that I was stretching myself thin. What mattered to me was his comfort, his peace. That was my definition of motherhood. Sacrifice, love, giving without needing to be asked. But over time, I realized I was the only one giving. He never once asked if I was okay. Never once said, "You've done enough, Mom." And when Christmas came, and he said he wasn't expecting me, it finally hit me. All those years of silent sacrifice meant nothing, because he no longer even expected me. And that was the moment I knew something had to change. Christmas had always been our favorite time of the year. Ever since he was a little boy, we made it magical together, decorating the tree, baking cookies, laughing at old holiday movies. Even after he grew up and moved into his own home, I never missed a Christmas with him. It was our tradition, our quiet promise to each other. So this year, I decided to surprise him. I used my savings to buy a plane ticket, wrapped thoughtful gifts for his kids, and even brought along the old family ornaments he loved so much as a child. I imagined the moment I'd walk through the door and see his face light up, the joy in his eyes, the laughter in the air. After everything I had done for him, this would be our moment of connection again. I picked up the phone, unable to contain my excitement. "I'm coming for Christmas," I said, already smiling. There was a long pause. Then he said the words that would change everything. "Oh, I wasn't expecting you." Just like that, the magic shattered. There was no warmth in his voice, no enthusiasm, no, "I can't wait to see you, Mom." Just cold distance, as if my presence had become an inconvenience. My heart dropped. I tried to laugh it off, to not let it sting. But it did. Deeply. I hung up the phone and sat there in silence. For the first time I realized I wasn't part of his holiday plans. Not even in his thoughts. I wasn't expected. And somehow, that hurt more than words could ever explain. Because after everything, I thought I still mattered. When I heard those words, "I wasn't expecting you," it felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. He didn't yell. He didn't argue. But the coldness in his voice cut sharper than any scream ever could. I stood there holding the phone, still smiling. But that smile quickly faded. My heart dropped into my stomach. I didn't know what to say, or how to pretend it didn't sting. I had replayed this moment in my head 100 times. I imagined laughter, joy, maybe even tears of happiness. I thought he'd say, "You're coming? That's the best news I've heard all week." But instead, I got silence. Then indifference. He wasn't rude, just distant, disconnected. Almost like my presence didn't matter at all. I said, "Well, I thought I'd surprise you and the kids." He hesitated and said, "Yeah, it's just, we've got plans already." No invitation to join. No effort to include me. No warmth. The worst part? He didn't even ask why I was coming. Didn't ask how I was doing. Didn't care that I had been looking forward to this all year. In that moment, I wasn't his mother. I was an obligation. A background character in a life I helped build. I ended the call politely. Told him to take care. But inside, my heart was in pieces. All those years of being there for him, supporting him, even paying for the roof over his head. And now, I wasn't even expected. That one sentence told me more than any long conversation ever could. I had become invisible in his world. After I hung up the phone, I sat in silence for what felt like hours. The twinkling lights on the small tree I'd put up flickered beside me, but they felt dim, lifeless, like the joy had been drained out of the season in an instant. I wasn't crying, not yet. I was just numb. It wasn't the words he said that broke me. It was what they meant. Years of sacrifice, love, and showing up, erased in a single moment of cold detachment. The son I had raised, protected, fought for, no longer saw me as someone to celebrate with, not even someone to expect. Rejection has a strange way of sneaking in. It doesn't always come with a slammed door or an argument. Sometimes it comes dressed in quiet disinterest, a shrug, a tone, a sentence like, "I wasn't expecting you." That's what crushed me. I didn't want gifts or grand gestures. I just wanted to be wanted, to be remembered, to feel like I still mattered in the life I helped build from scratch. It wasn't just a Christmas visit he turned down. It was everything I stood for as a mother. It was the connection we once had, the bond I thought was unbreakable. But now, I sat in that silence with only one question echoing in my mind. When did I stop being enough? The heartbreak didn't come all at once. It unraveled slowly, piece by piece, thought by thought, until I realized maybe he had moved on. Maybe I had given too much for too long. Maybe it was time to start thinking about me. And for the first time, that thought didn't feel selfish. It felt necessary. The decision didn't come in anger. It came in quiet realization. I sat with my thoughts for 2 days. No calls. No messages from him. He hadn't followed up. Didn't ask how I felt. And certainly didn't try to apologize. So I took out the folder I had buried in the bottom drawer. The one with the mortgage papers. My name was still on the loan. I had been paying it for years, even though I didn't live there. I did it because I thought I was helping, supporting, loving. But now I saw the truth. It was never appreciated. It was expected. And I was tired of being invisible while carrying someone else's weight. With a trembling hand, I picked up the phone and dialed the bank. The woman on the other end recognized me. "Same amount this month?" she asked. I took a deep breath. "No," I said. "I'd like to cancel the automatic payments immediately." There was a pause. "You sure?" "I'm sure." It was the first time in years I chose myself. I didn't shout. I didn't make a scene. I simply stopped. I ended the call and just sat there. Not proud, not spiteful, just relieved. I had paid long enough. With money, with time, with love, all without thanks. And now, the silence he gave me. I returned it. But this time, with action. He didn't expect me for Christmas. Now he could also stop expecting my support. It wasn't revenge, it was clarity. A quiet boundary drawn in dignity. And somehow, that one phone call felt like I'd finally been heard. It took less than 2 weeks. That's how quickly the silence turned into panic. Not mine, but his. I hadn't heard from him since that phone call when he said he wasn't expecting me. But now my phone rang. And this time, it wasn't silence on the other end. It was urgency. "Mom, hey. I just got a letter from the bank," he started, voice rushed. "Something about a missed payment on the mortgage. Did something happen?" I let the question hang in the air for a moment. He wasn't calling to ask how I was, not to check in or apologize, just to confirm if his comfort zone was still secure. "Yes," I said calmly. "I canceled the payment." Silence, then confusion. "Wait. Why? What's going on?" I took a deep breath and gave the only answer I felt he deserved. "You told me you weren't expecting me. So, I figured it was time to stop being the only one showing up. Financially, emotionally, and otherwise." He didn't respond. I could hear the gears turning in his head. This wasn't the mother he was used to. Not the one who gave without limits. He stumbled through his words. "But this could mess up everything. You've been covering that loan for years." "I know," I said. "And now I'm done." It wasn't about punishment. It was about truth. For years he leaned on me without ever wondering if I could still carry the weight. Now, for the first time, he was feeling what I had quietly endured for years. The fear of losing something you thought would always be there. And that lesson didn't need shouting. Just silence and one missed payment. After I told him I had canceled the payment, he didn't yell. He didn't argue. He didn't beg. He just went silent. At first, I thought the call had dropped. But no, he was still there, just quiet. And that silence, it said everything. Shock, embarrassment, maybe even guilt. But I didn't press him. I didn't fill the space with explanations or excuses. I had spent years justifying my sacrifices, softening my boundaries for his comfort. This time, I let the silence do the talking. He tried to gather his words. "I didn't mean to upset you," but it sounded hollow. Because the truth is, he didn't even think of me. Not when he said I wasn't expected. Not when he let the years of support become routine. He thought I would always be there. Always paying. Always showing up. But now, the quiet that followed my decision was different. It wasn't the silence of disinterest. It was the silence of realization. Maybe for the first time, he saw me. Not just as a mother, not just as a giver, but as a person. Someone with limits. Someone who could say no. And I didn't need to explain myself further. He knew. He felt it. Because silence, when it comes after years of giving, isn't empty. It's powerful. It holds everything that words failed to say. That moment, that silence. It wasn't about revenge. It was the echo of boundaries long overdue. And sometimes, silence is the only language that broken relationships truly understand. Christmas came, just like it always did. But this year, for the first time, I wasn't boarding a plane. I wasn't carrying gifts or planning family dinners. I wasn't going where I wasn't wanted. Instead, I stayed home, alone. And you know what? It wasn't sad. It was peaceful. I put up my little tree in the corner of my apartment. Nothing fancy, just a few old ornaments and a string of lights. I made myself cocoa, baked cookies the way I used to when my son was little, and turned on the same holiday songs we once danced to. But this time, I danced alone. I didn't check my phone. I didn't wait for a call. Because this year, I didn't give my energy to disappointment. I gave it to myself. For years, I gave everything to make everyone else feel special, seen, and secure. And I forgot how to give that same love back to me. This Christmas wasn't about being surrounded by family. It was about reclaiming peace. I didn't have to listen to forced conversations, hide my feelings behind a fake smile, or pretend everything was okay. I didn't feel forgotten. I felt free. There was no drama, no tension, no cold responses. Just me, sitting by the window, watching the snow fall, and realizing I deserved more than being someone's backup plan. I chose solitude over silent suffering. And for the first time in years, I actually felt calm, whole. Sometimes the greatest gift isn't wrapped under a tree, it's finally knowing your worth. And that year, I gave that gift to myself. It took me a long time to realize that love without limits isn't love. It's sacrifice without return. For years, I blurred the line between caring and enabling, between support and self-neglect. I thought being a good mother meant always saying yes, always giving more, always showing up, even when it hurt. But this moment, this Christmas, this silence, it taught me something I should have learned long ago. Self-worth is not measured by how much you give to others. It's measured by how much you refuse to give away your peace. I had spent decades pouring from a cup that no one thought to refill, covering bills, offering time, swallowing my own needs, and not once did I stop to ask, what about me? But when I canceled that mortgage payment, when I stopped showing up where I wasn't welcome, I felt a shift, not just in the way others saw me, but in the way I saw myself. I wasn't just a mother. I was a woman who had been taken for granted. And now, I was finally drawing a line. Setting boundaries didn't mean I loved him less. It meant I loved myself enough to stop bleeding for someone who no longer noticed. It's not easy. It's not loud. And it's not always understood. But boundaries are the quiet ways we teach others how to treat us. And self-worth is the voice that says, enough, when no one else is listening. I learned that I don't need to prove my love through suffering. I don't need to be expected to be respected. And I don't need to give endlessly to deserve a place in someone's life. I am enough. And I always was. Justice doesn't always come with a courtroom, a fight, or a dramatic ending. Sometimes, it comes in silence, in letting go, in walking away without looking back. I didn't cancel that mortgage payment to punish my son. I didn't spend Christmas alone to prove a point. I did it because I realized I had given enough and received almost nothing in return. I had spent years offering unconditional love, financial support, emotional presence, but none of it was acknowledged. None of it was cherished. The real justice came not in revenge, but in the quiet reclaiming of my dignity. No shouting, no guilt tripping. Just a simple decision. If you no longer value me, I will stop sacrificing myself for your comfort. And that is justice. Not the kind that seeks to hurt, but the kind that heals. Justice for every time I said yes when I was exhausted. Justice for every time I gave money I couldn't spare. Justice for every silent tear I cried while smiling for others. He may never understand the depth of what I did for him. He may never apologize or say thank you. But that no longer matters. Because the moment I chose myself, the moment I stopped allowing my love to be taken for granted, that was the moment justice was served. Not with anger, not with bitterness, but with peace. Sometimes the most powerful justice isn't about making someone else feel your pain. It's about choosing not to carry theirs anymore. And in that silence, I finally found the freedom I had been waiting for all along. Thank you for listening to this story. If it touched your heart, made you reflect, or reminded you of your own silent sacrifices, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Justice in Silence. New stories are shared every week, revealing the quiet moments that speak louder than words. Because sometimes, silence is the strongest kind of justice. Until next time, protect your peace, honor your worth, and never be afraid to walk away from what no longer serves you.